Hey everyone, this is Notser, and it's been a while since I've made a video on YouTube, obviously, and I'm sorry for that, but real life has been a challenge, to say the least. I would love to talk about what has been going on, and then on top of that, I want to try and share my thoughts on some of the development blog posts, because there is some very interesting changes that Wargaming intends to try and make to the game, and I'm interested in sharing my thoughts on it. But first, let's talk about my son really fast. So about a month ago, my son was admitted to the ER, and it ended up being sepsis-like symptoms. She was very close to going sepsis because of her fluids, and this is in response to her dumping everything. And we believe it's her gallbladder that's causing this dumping. There's, green in the fluids. Green is bile, and bile comes from your gallbladder. So that's one of the things that she's been dealing with off and on for a while, but it just came to a head a month ago. And ever since that, it has not stopped. She can't eat anything with high fat, has saturated fat, high sugar. Basically, she has to look at every single ingredient, and if the total grams between all three of those adds up to less than 10, she might be able to eat some of it. She's basically eating 600 calories at the most each day. She's losing a lot of weight. So obviously she's my priority. I don't think anyone's going to fault me for that. But clearly what she's going through is dire. And the only way it's going to get fixed is if she gets the gallbladder removed. Now, when we went to the ER, if she would have had a gallstone in her gallbladder, stuck or whatever, they would have instantly removed it. But unfortunately, she is one of those people where her gallbladder is sort of hiding that it's malfunctioning. It's a condition called biliary dyskinesia. It's a failure of the motion, and it's undetected by her body. And there's only one test that really verifies that it's malfunctioning. It's called a HIDA scan. And unfortunately, you can't just have a HIDA. You have to have a HIDA and an MRI and an endoscopy and all this stuff. You got to have a capsule cam in order to verify that it couldn't be anything else, like pancreatitis or anything to do with the stomach or gallbladder. So that's what's going on with her. It's been taking forever, and it's partially because of COVID. There's just not enough doctors to take care of the people, and it's not a priority because there's people, dying. She feels like she's dying, and if you've ever had gallbladder pain like this, you will feel it too. This is a woman who has 20 to 25 migraines per month, and she says that is nothing compared to the gallbladder pain she's going through. So I am incredibly sympathetic to her, obviously. I try every moment that she's here to make her life easier through this really difficult time. And it's just compounded by COVID and all that stuff. So I'm sorry that I don't know what's going on, or I haven't shared any thoughts with all of you guys and haven't been making videos, but obviously she's my priority. Now, having said that, she is not currently here, so we're going to make this video. We're going to talk about the recent developer blog posts, and I'm going to share my thoughts. Now, the first and most recent one is for Super Test 9.6, and it's changes to the test ships. Now, Anchorage is a Tier 8 American cruiser. I believe Anchorage has torpedoes. You'll notice that its main battery has been nerfed from 12 seconds to 15.5, so clearly it was overperforming, but I wouldn't know because I haven't played it. Paleo Amelia, though, is a ship that I have played. You can go and watch a video that I have on YouTube right now, if you'd like. And it was a Tier 10 with super strong sap. It was kind of the antithesis of the Kleber, where it was able to do tons and tons and tons of damage with sap, but it had smoke, and it had that Italian creeping smoke. Well, they've sort of backtracked from that. They've nerfed the reload from 7 seconds to 12, and they've changed the gun range to be a lot less. And they're sort of encouraging this upfront point-blank playstyle, which we all know that's not going to work very well against aircraft carriers and radar and more radar. 4-kilometer range torpedoes, even if they're the highest damage torpedoes in the game, don't really know that that's going to matter that much. But they are moving to Tier 9, and I can't wait to try it. It seems really interesting with the relationship between the engine boost and the exhaust smoke. You'll notice that the engine boost is actually the small land engine boost, and that is a really nice engine boost. So, you know, for all we know, this might actually work. I don't think it's going to work, but they're going to try it, so I'm interested to try it. The Rhine and the Weser, the Weser, they were slightly adjusted. I haven't been around for the German aircraft carriers and the Franklin Roosevelt for testing. I don't have much to say. The only thing I can say is what I've played from the most recent German aircraft carriers is far superior to the initial offering. The initial offering was awful. Franklin D, they buffed the size of the carrier squadrons a ton. That is obviously a downside if you get caught out, but the plus is the size is so large that it's very, very overwhelming. I've been attacked by the attack rockets of FDR, and I can attest it feels like the sun is being concealed by the mass amount of rockets coming at me, but they don't move super fast, and I like the challenge, so I'm not, you know, broken up too much about this. I'm hoping that this makes it a compelling offering, but we'll have to see on that. There's more important things to talk about, though. We've got the Kitakami. Now, the Kitakami is a very interesting topic because this is a ship that's been in the game way back in alpha, way back in like closed beta, and it was responsible for the most team kills and the most team damage by a huge margin back then. Now, it was a Tier 8, and it only had 10-kilometer range torpedoes. This version is a little different. This is a Tier 10. Yes, a Tier 10. Anyone who's not familiar with the Kitakami? This is the Kuma. The Kuma is a Tier 4 Japanese cruiser. That hull is going to have absolutely no armor, probably going to be able to citadel with HE shells, a 16mm nose, and the nose basically extends from right here all the way down. So huge amount of the ship is very low armored, but it has 40 torpedoes that go 15 kilometers and do 1,500 damage. That's impressive. Its concealment base is 10.6, and it will be buffed up to somewhere around 8.6 to 9 after modules and commander skills. It has smoke generator, engine boost, and repair party, which it didn't have when it was under testing, but we also didn't have radar. Consider that one. For as effective or ineffective as it was, there was no radar, so no one could actually forcibly detect it if it was played correctly. And I hate to break it to you guys, but radar's everywhere. I can attest to it. Every DD player can attest to it. You're going to go into a game where at least 3 enemy ships will probably have radar. And this is not going to be a fun ship to play when it is detected. And it's going to be detected a lot because of radar. Its AA is pathetic. You know, outside of its torpedo system, everything about it is Tier 4. That's a concern. But I think this is going to be a great meme ship. I can't wait to play it in some 12 versus 12 training battle or a 3-man division and just flood the water. There's 20 torps per side, so you do have to turn the ship to use all 40, but hey, you got 40 torpedoes. Who can say that, right? So I'm not one of these people who are like, oh god, the sky is falling, the Kitakami is awful. Listen, people have been clamoring for it. They want it. It's here. And I don't foresee this being competitively viable. Let me see if I can talk. But I hazard a guess that it could be fun. So I'm all for fun. I'm definitely a fun person. Not in real life, but for fun. Next up, we've got the American Battleship line. Now, this has also been highly requested. Forever, we have been asking for an American or a Japanese alternative battleship branch, and we're going to get one. We're going to get it in the form of the Americans, and the playstyle is slow, low armored, high alpha, big guns. I am not really a fan of this archetype. It was not what I envisioned for the alternative American Battleship line. I was absolutely on the secondaries train. But when you look at this, and I'm going to show you the stats, you've probably already seen it. But when you look at the comparison between Colorado, Kansas, Minnesota, Vermont, and compare that to North Carolina, Iowa, Montana, these ships are so much like the Colorado. It's as if the Soviet light and heavy cruiser is going here. So this is clearly Wargaming clarifying that the American battleship line is slow, is heavy broadside, is low armored. And then the alternative branch is going to be this faster, less guns, less alpha, but more armor, more speed, and a more well-rounded offering when you compare it to the competition. So we have Kansas here. Obviously, Kansas. Kansas is a state in the United States. If you haven't caught on to this, the American Navy named battleships after states. So we get Kansas, Minnesota, Vermont. You'll notice that the South Dakota is not there. And anything else from that, I could totally see that eventually going down a secondary route. I do not think this invalidates our secondary desire. I think this merely is to be an additive. In Wargaming's mind, they probably envision sometime down the line when they have a chance to actually fix secondaries, make secondaries not so expensive to spec into and be a viable strategy. Maybe sometime down the line, they will introduce a third branch for the Americans that will emphasize secondaries in celebration of those changes. So if they intend to do that, it makes sense that they don't do those ships right now. So we got Kansas, which is fat, short, and tons of guns. We got Minnesota, which is fat, short, and tons of guns. And Vermont, which is fat, short, and a ton of guns. Imagine that. And then we have Florida, which is a tier 7. Now, the Florida is supposedly similar to the Champagne and the Slava. High accuracy, weak armor, and high citadel. So you want to stay back and fire from range with the Florida. Completely different from the Kansas, Minnesota, and the Vermont. Kansas, Minnesota, and Vermont are much more like Colorado. They're slow, 23 knots slow, way too slow in my opinion. Right off the bat, they're all 23 knots. I would have much preferred Wargaming to do sort of a progressive step, maybe 23 or 24 knot on the Kansas, 25 knot or 26 on the Minnesota, and 27 or 28 on the Vermont. Something that gets it closer to the other ships. It's in the conversation, but obviously it's not matching them. I think these guys with low armor and slow, they will be awful to try and run away from HE. But having said all that, their gun system is basically a direct counter to all those cruisers slinging HE. You got 12 406mm guns at tier 8, 40-second reload. The HE, the AP, the gun velocity, all very similar to previous American battleships, so I'm not going to be going super into that. But the gun reload is a problem. The speed is a problem. Now, the Sigma is 1.7, which is less than the other ships, but keep in mind, you have 3 extra guns. 3 extra guns can make it appear more accurate with 1.7 Sigma than 1.9 with 9 guns. So I'm not hating on the Sigma as much as I'm hating on the 40-second reload and the 23 knots. The 23 knots is going to just kill its ability to move around the map and have its presence be known. I don't know why Wargaming would ever consider introducing battleships that continue to be slower than submarines will ultimately be at this tier. I just don't understand. They are using the updated American Battleship Repair Party. This is not the repair party that is equipped to the Massachusetts or the Georgia. This is the repair party that's equipped to the Iowa, the Montana, the North Carolina, the Colorado. It's better, but it's not fast recharging in the same way. Minnesota, 12 406mm guns. It has the same reload as the Kansas. It has more health, probably has slightly more armor, but I don't necessarily think you're gaining enough here to make you feel like there's a step up there. So that's one of the first concerns. Going from tier 8 to tier 9 clearly is not as meaningful of a step as it needs to be. So I hope they address that. On top of that, the Minnesota has 12 406mm guns. What other ship has 12 406mm guns for the Americans? The Montana, which of course is very dominant. If the Montana faces this, it has more health, it has more armor, it has a faster reload, it has equal AA, it has basically 7 more knots of speed. Its rudder is way worse, and its turn radius is also not as good, but you can compensate for that. And you can't compensate for slow. You can't change slow. So just really disappointed in the offerings here. I'm really hoping that Wargaming can clarify the design. But Vermont does have a nice step up from the Minnesota. Nearly 30,000 more life. I don't know why. That's just such a giant jump. It has 12 457mm guns, 457s, 12 of them. That's a really heavy broadside. Cruisers and battleships are going to be so terrified of that broadside. If they see you, they'll probably run away from you. But the Vermont is the most intriguing one of the three to me because of the fact that it has 12 457s. Nothing else in the game has that, and there's not going to be a heavier broadside of AP ever in the game, like, period, because the Americans have such heavy AP shells. Florida, high gun velocity, comparatively to other Americans, but relatively, small gun caliber. It's similar to, I guess, the California, which is also a tier 7. I'm really confused. Why would want another 356 at tier 7 when the ship's with 410, but whatever. I'm not happy. This is not what I was hoping for. If they can salvage the speed a little bit, then I would actually be very intrigued because I love the American shell arc. I love the American damage. My Monty is my top 3. I love my Montana, and I do so well in it that I think that if they make these guys right, they'll also be very successful. It's just I'm not seeing enough here to justify me taking this over the Monty or the Iowa or the North Carolina, in fact. Speed is such an important trait that it's hard to argue against it. And these guys are trying to argue against it, and it just doesn't make sense. Unique upgrades. We're going to run through these really quick because we've already talked a lot. They're going to buff the torpedo detection of the Z-52. Still slot 5. I don't know if this makes this viable, but it's a buff to a unique upgrade that isn't being used. So maybe someone will use it. Maybe I will try it. The Grozovoy. The Grozovoy is having its torpedo tubes nerfed. So it's trying to emphasize the gunboat aspect of it more. And I already felt like it felt a little too long, torpedo reload. So for me, this is probably going to be too much. But it is a change to an upgrade, unique upgrade, that doesn't really contribute that much to the game because the Grozovoy isn't really relevant in the current design of the game. I don't think this is going to change that, so I'm just going to continue. The Moskva is getting nerfed, the upgrade for the Moskva. The Traverse is being nerfed, and the accuracy is being nerfed. This is a big blow to the Moskva. It was honestly a guaranteed take in many instances. This is much more, situational. Do I want to take this? Do I want the super slow Traverse, or do I want faster reload? I can't get that here. So a lot of these unique upgrades, they're clarifying accuracy versus reload. You can't get both. And I think that's healthy for the game, but it's not healthy for people who spend so much time grinding out unique upgrades only to find them get completely nerfed. But I did warn you guys, hopefully you didn't go out and buy some of these because Wargaming was always going to make changes. The Minotaur is being slightly changed. The dispersion effect is being removed from the slot 5, and they're adding a faster consumable reload, which I think is great. I think this makes it more appealing to me, and it gives it sort of a function that it didn't have before. It's much more closer to something like a DD now with faster consumables, and I think the Minotaur is fantastic already. I'm definitely into this, and I'm going to try it out. The Zal, they're removing the rudder. They're leaving all the accuracy. I'm disappointed. Obviously, the rudder is one of the best parts of this. It makes the Zao feel like a DD and maneuverability, and that's going away. So, like, it's going to be really hard to use the torpedoes because you won't have that super responsive rudder to duck and dodge and activate and maneuver your butt into position. It's just a disappointment. The Amato, they're removing the reload benefit, but they are buffing the turret traverse. So this will be only accuracy or the reload module. So damage per minute versus accuracy. I personally go damage per minute. I can see why people would go accuracy. I just couldn't get over the slow turret traverse. The 19% was awful. So 13% matches with the reload. That's fine. Daring, emphasizing torpedoes. The torpedo damage goes from 1600 damage, 16,000 damage to 19,000 damage. But this is in slot 5, so this is competing with concealment. That's a big deal. Like, you only have 10-kilometer range, so you're basically like a 6.5 kilometer concealed torpedo boat that only can send a 10. That's a big give up. That's kind of matching the Z52 in many ways. And I don't necessarily think that this is the right way for the Daring. It is different, so at least we have that. The Kleber. The Kleber's is very, very weird. That is one of the craziest things to me. Its ship detectability is going to be something like 6.3, 6.4, but its reload is like halved. So instead of like 5 or 6 seconds, it's going to be 11 or 12. You will only be able to match a reload with main battery reload, but 6.5, 55 knots, and rushing forward with torpedoes. I'm going to try this so much. This one looks so exciting. Ferugamo, emphasizing smoke firing, more consumable charges. I like it. It goes in line with what the Harugamo is already trying to do. It's not taking away too much because slot 5 is concealment, and if you're in smoke, you're already concealed. Tremblin. This is awful. This is a reload buff of about 4 seconds, but you give up 12% of your battery, your main battery firing range, and you give up 1 consumable charge. That's an insane penalty for what you're gaining. It's just not worth it. This feels just like the Republic, where the penalties were so much worse than what you were gaining. The Audacious, improved ship detectability, engine boost to the aircraft. This is to facilitate faster squadrons attacking, but acceleration is worse and the rudder shift is worse. It's pretty bad on that front, so I don't know if it's necessarily a buff. And it's slot 6, so this is competing with the aircraft buffs of speed or health. So you're giving up base speed for possible longer engine boost. Don't know that it's worth that. The Midway is emphasizing HE bombs and cruiser bomber cruising speed. I don't know if it's just bombers, dive bombers, or torpedo bombers and dive. I assume it's dive. This is actually pretty nice for Midway, who want to emphasize more HE bombing. Haku, faster base speed, worse engine boost. It's kind of a side grade. Don't really see why you would take this, but it's there. Naval base upgrade. There are some clans that are just stockpiling resources. So Wargaming decided to give clans a chance to buy like containers and stuff for their clan in order to dump some of those resources because they've unlocked everything. Don't have any problem with that. No issue whatsoever. These look cool, but you know, I mean, they're not contributing to moment-to-moment gameplay, so it's not something that's huge in my mind. They are changing consumables in 9.7 to be able to move them around freely. Thank you. This is so nice. This is such a nice change. Really excited for that. There are 2 new flags. One that improves smoke generator action time, and one that improves hydroacoustic and defensive AA. These are both obviously emphasizing DDs, so these are nice upgrades to the DD. DDs can't use 8 flags anyway. I just think that this is Wargaming's way of making sure that every class has roughly 8 useful flags. It's a good change for them. Containers, Iron Cross. This will be a premium that you can unlock on each of the tier 10 German ships once they are in early access. Good luck with that. It looks cool. We've got Hot Tropics. This is a tropical themed Atlanta skin. I think it looks cool with the palm trees. And then you got a generic summer skin and some patches. Detectability with AA firing. This is interesting, and this will probably end up being one of the last things I talk about. So, Wargaming is going to buff the air detection. It's going to be halved. So, a DD that has a 3-kilometer air detection will have 1.5. That is a huge buff to the DD. However, for this buff, if you deactivate your AA, it will take 20 seconds for your AA detection to bloom down to its minimum. That is a long time. That will definitely be a source of frustration because players will make a mistake. They'll accidentally activate and then they will be detected for the whole time. But this does allow DDs more counterplay to CVs, which they desperately need. So I'm not going to be critical of that. I just can't wait. I would say 90% of DDs will probably just run with their AA turned off completely. And that would be fine with me because honestly, 90% of DDs have irrelevant AA power. Sorry, it's just how it feels. Clan season, changes of test ships. Yeah, so thank you again, guys, for sticking with me and supporting me and myself through this difficult time and continuing to, because obviously it'll be a while until she gets this taken out, unfortunately. I will try and keep you guys posted on my Twitter. It's at thisisnotser. I stream at twitch.tv/notser. And if you're interested in doing the recruit a friend, my warships.us/notser is how you can join my recruit a friend. You stand to benefit a little bit from there. But I really appreciate all the support, guys. It means the world to me. It really does. And I can't wait to be able to make more videos and hang out with you guys more. I definitely enjoy it and I miss it. And I just hope that you guys are doing well with everything going on in the world. Thanks again. Take care and have a great one. Peace, guys.